Hello and welcome to Talk Review Game. It's just finished. Bournemouth 2, West Ham United 0. Charlie, let's go from the start, the highlights. I mean, first of all, it's the lineup, I suppose, we need to quickly discuss. Were you surprised to see Andy Carroll up top? We obviously found out yesterday Marko Arnautovic hadn't travelled, but of all the options Pellegrini had, he went for Andy.
Surprised to an extent, but of course, Hernandez has been struggling with his own injury problems for a little while. And so, given the fact that we've both spoken about this, he keeps giving Andy Carroll chances whenever he's able to. He keeps giving him minutes whenever he's able to. Although it was mildly surprising, I wasn't overly shocked. It wasn't completely unexpected, is what I'm saying.
In the 20th minute, Bournemouth had a goal ruled offside as Ake put the ball in there, but Wilson was just a half a yard offside. But Tom, that first 20 minutes, as though we barely got out of our own half.
Yeah, we was under the cosh a bit. I don't particularly think Bournemouth were even playing that well. We were just struggling to make anything stick in their half, which just meant it kept coming back to us. It just wasn't working. I'll come on to my little Andy Carroll rant a bit later, probably, because you'll ask me a bit about individual people, but I think that was a lot to do with it. And yeah, Bournemouth by far the better side, and I was certainly worried at that point. Let's put it that way.
We had to wait a little while for West Ham to even get anywhere near Bournemouth's box, but when they did, Sammy Nasri went close, and that was about our only effort of the first half. Charlie, half-time, 0-0. Were we fortunate to go in 0-0?
To an extent, probably. I think we had a very good chance with Nasri. That shot that just dragged wide, I think if that goes on target, that's probably in the net. But at the time, we didn't really create enough to trouble the goalkeeper at all, and to trouble them as a side really that much. They looked like they were more comfortable with the two, and if a goal was going to happen in our first half, it probably would have been theirs.
I thought we were awful in the first half. We could have stringed 2 or 3 passes together. I know Carroll's going to get a look because there's rightly so. The problem was we couldn't even get the ball to Carroll to find out if he could do anything with it. You know, the defence was poor, the midfield was poor, there was no creativity. Last week, me and Charlie did the review straight after the Arsenal game. We were putting about Nasri and Anderson. Barely looked like they knew each other today on the pitch. I can't remember them doing 1 or 2 passes between each other. I was trying to have a rake around at halftime, see how much passes they did between each other against Arsenal, because it felt like loads. Then today, all of a sudden, they're so far apart on the pitch as well, and it was just so disappointing to see. After so much promise at the London Stadium last week, today just David Moyes up a little bit for some reason. Just after half-time, though, Bournemouth went close. Fabianski making an excellent save from Steve Cook, and then Zabaleta almost scoring an own goal. Then down the other end of the pitch, which is actually probably the biggest talking point, despite the fact that Bournemouth scored 2. Tom, we've seen some glaring misses at West Ham, but this one's going to be right up there. The ball come in, Carroll heads it down to Antonio. It falls back to Andy Carroll, half a yard if you want to be generous, out with his right foot, and somehow he manages to get it over the bar.
Yeah, both of them have fluffed it. Antonio fluffed it to start off, which was a fairly easy chance. I know it's on his left foot, but he's on the penalty spot more or less, isn't he? He should be hitting the target with that. And then Andy Carroll, I just don't know. I don't know what to say about this geezer. That was awful. I'm sorry. That was ridiculous. If you ever want to see, I don't think I've seen a worse miss. I don't think I have. It was harder to get it over the bar than what it was to hit that on target. I'm sorry, it was ridiculous. He's leaning back. He's slashed at it. Ridiculous. Awful technique from him.
What did you make of his performance, Tom?
Right, well, this is where we get down to it. He does not fit into this team, and I've said it time and time again. He doesn't, and I think the big problem is, and this was a problem for us today. We're trying to play good football. We're trying to play these little pass and move, and he's got no movement at all. His movement was terrible all game for me, as far as I'm concerned, and that was a major problem, and that caused Nasri and Anderson problems, because while Arnautovic will usually be running into those channels or dropping deeper, Andy Carroll, he just wasn't. And I don't think the other players have the trust in his ability and his technique. And I think when we're trying to play this way, our front 4, 2 of them have got the technical ability of a 3-legged donkey. And that it just doesn't work. When it's just Antonio there, we get away with it. And Antonio's been playing really well in the past few weeks, so I don't want to be too hard on him. But you get away with it then. But you can't have 2 of your 4 with more or less zero technical ability trying to play the sort of football we're playing. And it just didn't work. So you had to rely on Anderson and Nasri. And Anderson was poor today, by the way. He had a poor game. He was quiet today. Things weren't working for him. That's going to happen. But again, if you've got another 3 players contributing, sort of takes the pressure off him a little bit. So I think a lot of today's performance came down to Andy Carroll just not fitting into the system and the way we want to play at all. And it's terrifying, really, because we've got this situation with Arnautovic. We just need it sorting out now. I was in the camp yesterday of, sorry to go on about the Arnautovic situation now, but yesterday I was very much in the camp of, we need to set an example with this guy, let him rot in the reserves, because I don't want to see other players doing it to us in the future. It's already happened twice now. But after seeing that today, we need a replacement ASAP. So now I've changed my opinion. It's a case of get him out the door as quickly as we can, bring someone in. I'm even tempted to say get rid of Hernandez, because I thought he was dreadful when he came on as well. I think we need to clear the decks as far as our forward line's concerned, bring new blood in, and bring some people in that have actually got a bit of talent about them to complement the likes of Nasri and Anderson. That's rant over, I'm afraid. Sorry about that.
The one thing I will say about Andy Carroll's miss, he is very Michail Antonio is actually very lucky Carroll's miss was so bad, because his effort was awful. Carroll actually does, he does 2 things good in the game. The whole game does 2 things good. One is passing the first half, which sets Anderson free, and the second one is what he's in the team to do. The ball comes in, he hands it down to Antonio. It's perfect. He puts on the plate for Antonio. It would be, if Antonio had scored that, would be saying that's the Andy Carroll we need, doing that header down. He does it all right. But Antonio just jumps up and panics. I don't even know what he's trying to do. He sort of like kicks it with both feet at the same time and everything. I'm not even sure what Antonio is trying to do there. He's calling Andy Carroll a donkey. Well, Antonio turned into a galloping horse for some reason. He looked like he was going over a fence at entry in the Grand National. The ball then somehow comes to Andy Carroll, who is obviously not expecting it, but all he has to do is just hit the target. It's not that difficult. I sort of get what he's trying to do. He knows the keeper is going to go to ground, so he thinks, I need to hit this sort of high into the roof of the net. The problem is, that was Hernandez. That's 1-0 all day long. That is Hernandez's bread and butter. But Carroll, Jesus, I mean, the commentator saying it almost went out the ground and stuff. The trajectory he got on that effort was unbelievable. It actually almost went vertical. I don't think he could try that again if he actually tried. If you give him that and say, kick it as high up, straight up as you can, because he practically did it. He wouldn't manage it. It was an unbelievable trajectory of that effort. And Charlie, then it was not long after, I mean, that was a turning point in the game, because not long after, 53 minutes in, we see the complete opposite. From Andy Carroll, we're missing composure, we're missing technique. Well, the Bournemouth striker goes and does just that. The ball comes to him on the edge of the box. He takes his time, he lines himself up on the half volley, and he hits it so sweet. There's no way Fabianski's getting to that, into the top corner. 1-0 Bournemouth, and a fantastic goal, Charlie.
Yeah, and that's what an informed striker does. Just the ability to almost have more time than he should. And you can make the argument about us pressing him, but Ogbonna, or one of the defenders anyway, was close to him, and he still pings it right into the top corner. It's an incredible piece of technique from him. And it's the sort of thing where you go, okay, maybe he is worth as much as Bournemouth are saying he's worth. I still don't agree with him, but it is an incredible finish. And they get a bit of luck. I think the cross is a bit deflected off whoever slides in again. I can't remember. But to just hit it top, like Fabianski had an incredible game. I genuinely think Fabianski had a very good game and made some stops he doesn't have any right to stop. But even with that one, he just stood and watched it, because there's nothing you can do when someone hits a goal like that. That's an incredible piece of skill from Wilson.
Tom, what did you make of our defending for Bournemouth's first goal?
Well, first of all, I don't want to criticise this geezer too hard, because up to this moment, I thought he was having a good game, and that's Diop. Diop's dived in sort of around the halfway line, hasn't he? So Fraser's got round him and got past him. So that's the first mistake. But then he's actually recovered and made a really good challenge, Diop. I didn't quite know how he got there, but he does that kind of thing. And it's just really unfortunate that it deflects up and falls to Wilson, who hits an absolute perler of a strike, don't he? So, yeah, the original mistake, you'd say, is Diop. But like I say, a bit unfortunate as well, because he did get back and recover. It was just one of them. It could have fell to anyone. It's fell to Wilson. And, yeah, what a strike. Brilliant. Well, from a Bournemouth point of view.
I think Diop shows his inexperience there by diving in. He's still quite young. He's still learning to. But like you said, he recovers fantastically well with his pace to get back. But I just think Ogbonna and Rice are half asleep a little bit, because when that ball deflects and loops up in the air, Rice is pointing at something. I'm not sure what he's pointing at. He's pointing over the Diop thing while the ball's in the air. And Ogbonna's just watching Wilson lining it up, and they both just turn and watch Wilson, and neither of them really go to close him down. I just think it's a bit frustrating, because whenever we had an opportunity on the edge of their box, their defenders were throwing everything at us. We couldn't get a shot away. We weren't that great, but when we did try and get a shot, and especially in the first half, we had that 5 minutes where we're getting bits and pieces in, and Noble was involved. Nasri had a shot. Anderson had a shot. There was like 3 or 4 people, boom, right in front of the ball, stopping Begovic to have, not Begovic, Boric today. They put the 38-year-old in. They were taking the piss. But they were defending everything. Our 2 centre-backs, the one occasion where they do need to go out there and defend, and they were just a bit ball-watchy for my liking. Anyway, the substitutions then came. Off went Andy Carroll, and on came Snodgrass. Off went Nasri, and on came Javier Hernandez. But not long after, Charlie, Callum Wilson hit the post, and then should they have had a penalty? Brooks went down.
It's an awkward one. It's a very awkward one. I think you can make the argument that it would have been softer if it was given, but the fact is that there is contact there, and Ogbonna it's just a clumsy challenge. He doesn't really know what he's doing. He's sort of putting his foot in between his legs in a hope to get the ball, but at that point, the player is going to go down. It's something you would expect someone inexperienced to do, not someone who's played international for Italy of all teams. It sums up the season he's having, where it was just clumsy and awkward. And to be honest with you, if they'd given it as a penalty, you wouldn't be able to complain about it too much.
Diangana came on for Mark Noble in the 78th minute, but there wasn't much they could do at this point. West Ham 2-0 in the 91st minute. Brooks broke 3, laid it into King on a plate and put it away. Charlie, we got beat 2-0. Where's it gone wrong today for West Ham?
One shot on target is the easiest way to put it. In that first half, you were right. We were so incapable of just creating chances, and Carroll get a lot of stick for that, but that's not to say the rest of the team were doing incredibly and he was the one cog making it go missing. Yes, we do change our style when he plays. Yes, it does make it more stilted, but we still should be able to create those chances with the players we had on the pitch. You brought it up, and Nasri and Anderson were so far together. Nasri at times was playing as a defensive midfield, like Pirlo-esque player, dropping so deep and starting play, and that's fine, but he didn't get as far forward as we needed him. The joy of him against Arsenal was he was in and around the D, really getting close and really being able to put those deft charges and nice little passes to work. And today he couldn't do that because he was so deep. And Carroll, again, it was, as much as he affects the play, the people around him should be better than that. And the fact it took us so late just to get one shot on target. I mean, at one point, their goalkeeper passed the ball to us and we still didn't get a shot off. He passed the ball to us. In any other situation, other games this season, we would have absolutely buried that chance. And yet we just sort of looked ponderous. We tried to play a through ball. It didn't really work. And that was the story of today. We just couldn't put 2 passes together. We couldn't play anywhere near like we did. And a lot of people will blame Carroll for that, but I think there's a lot of people on that pitch who deserve equal criticism.
Tom, we went to the side in the worst form in the league and lost. Where's it gone wrong for West Ham?
That's typical West Ham, but I thought we were coming away from the typical West Ham, and it was, a bit of a new team. This, we were doing things a bit differently, but yeah, today we reverted to type, and yeah, it just annoys me a bit that when you go to teams like this that are in bad form, we know ourselves because we've had it where we've been in poor form at the London Stadium, and teams come to our ground and it's shut the fans up after the first 20 minutes. And you know what I mean? We can sort of take advantage of that. We don't do that. They like you said, they were brilliant in the first 20 minutes, Bournemouth, and they didn't stop. They were quite relentless. Their heads never went. And we looked like the team that were on a poor run of form because we didn't look confident, because there was no movement at all, as we've alluded to before. The front four were poor. Like you say, we couldn't string 2 passes together. It was a bit strange. What an odd performance, because it's come out of nowhere. We've seen no evidence in recent weeks to suggest we'd play like this. I'm actually going to say this was one of our very worst performances of the whole season. Even in other games we've lost, I've seen an attacking threat from us. Even when Man City beat us 4-0 at the London Stadium, we were an attacking threat in that game. There was nothing today, as far as I'm concerned. That was awful. And I don't really know where it's gone wrong, other than I don't want to use this kind of thing as an excuse, but has the Arnautovic thing affected us? It was only yesterday that all this news broke about, has he refused to play, this, that and the other. Has that had a bearing on it? I don't know, maybe, because like I say, it's just come out of nowhere as far as I'm concerned. And I'm concerned. We really need to sort this out and see where we're going forward, and we need to bring a new striker in ASAP.
I thought the Arnautovic saga, if you like, would have actually motivated our players today. I thought they would have been up for it. I thought they would have been saying to each other, like, we go out there and we show that fans we can win without. They did it in December. They won every game Marco Arnautovic was missing in December. They were winning the games. They were grinding them out. It wasn't pretty at times, but they managed to get the 3 points. So I thought we would have seen West Ham come out today to show their away fans that it doesn't matter if Marco Arnautovic doesn't want to play, because they want to play for West Ham. They will play for West Ham, and they can perform without him. But we didn't really see any of that. It's just a bit scary that last week against Arsenal, we were fantastic. Today, we played 10 of those players. Only one change in the team, and the whole thing changes completely. So is Marco Arnautovic that important, or is Andy Carroll that crap? It's one of the two, or it's a little bit of both. Charlie says, put Carroll and we changed our tactics. I actually don't think we changed our tactics enough. I think that's the problem. I think we put Carroll in and Marco Arnautovic hole. They're two completely different players. And you probably do get Anderson and Nasri trying to do the 1-2 with Andy Carroll. He just can't do it. He's just not good enough. You almost need to say to Carroll, don't worry about the ball until it gets to the final third. Just go stand the 18-yard or something and wait for it, because he's almost a hindrance when he tries to get involved. But saying that, the best pass of the game in a West Ham shirt came from Carroll today in the first half out to Anderson. It's just, he unfortunately for him, he is the one that came in for Marco Arnautovic, big shoes to fill, and he's failed. He looked poor. He missed one of the biggest chances of the season. Tucks that away, he's a hero, but he didn't. So he's now one of the biggest sort of like, I don't want to call him a scapegoat, because he does deserve a lot of criticism, but he's going to get all the blame today. All the blame is going to go on Andy Carroll today. It's going to be Andy Carroll's fault that we conceded 2 goals. It's going to be Andy Carroll's fault we created 0 chances. It will be. That's what's going to happen. But I don't think some of the players did okay, but none of them were amazing. Nobody grabbed that game by the scruff of the neck and said, you know what, I'm going to control this game. I'm going to step up to the plate. We've lost our maverick in Marco Arnautovic. There's a role of hero at West Ham to be filled, if you like. None of them players out there today took it. I actually expected Nasri and Anderson to really step up today, and I thought they would have been like, you know what, we're the players here. We're the ones you can give the ball to. None of that today. Individual performances. Now, I know someone's away to get hiding. He's had one from me and Tom, so I think he's away to get one from Charlie as well. But Charlie, would you like to take your pick? Any players you can praise or criticise? Choose away.
Okay, I'm going to say this, and it's going to be unpopular, but when am I ever one to say something that's popular? I think in the second half, we started to see Carroll play well. I think he started to get into positions he should actually have been in. He started to push against that back line and move them in ways that he doesn't. Because in that first half, you're right, he drops deep and tries to get involved in the build-up play. And occasionally, very, very rarely, he can pull out a pass like he did. But the rest of the time, it's completely and utterly pointless. Whereas in the beginning of the second half, clearly someone had told him, or he decided to do it in his own back. I don't know. He started to push up against the back line. At one point, he was basically having a fight with Nathan Ake to just move the ball forward. And he wasn't even on the ball. And then that chance came and he absolutely fluffed it. And from that point onwards, it's over. And you saw when he came off the pitch how annoyed he was and how much he knew he'd fluffed that chance. Because with Arnautovic going, he got the start. He got the nod from Pellegrini, who clearly likes him. And he had the opportunity to stamp his name and go, actually, yeah, I am as good as everyone thought I was. But he fluffed it, and he knows he fluffed it. And I think it's going to be incredibly difficult for him to come back with the way the opinion is on him now. Outside of that, I think there are very few people who are actually any good. I think Fabianski had a very good game. I think Diop, apart from a few iffy situations here and there, I think he had a very good game. Some of those tackles he makes, he just continues to do it. He's so, I don't know how, he's just long. I don't know how he gets to the ball so far away, but he does. And he does it completely cleanly as well, which is insane. And Declan Rice made a couple as well. But apart from that, I think everyone else deserves criticism. I think everyone else had made mistakes or was just poor. I don't think... There was a lot of talk about Hernandez doing this post on social media before about, I'm training so hard or I'm working so hard or whatever. Maybe do that on the pitch, because he was woeful today, just like everyone else was. And it's frustrating because we needed, as obvious as it was when Carroll was going to play, that if he made a mistake, he would be the scapegoat, as you say. It was just as obvious that the second we went down, we would have heard commentators and media pundits saying, well, Arnautovic, they look like a different team without him. And it's just a shame, because we should have been able to put our stamp on this game in a game against such a poor team, or in such poor form. We should have been able to put our stamp on it and really go, no, actually, we're great with or without him. It makes no difference, like we did previously. But we crumbled today. We utterly crumbled. And I think every single player, barring Fabianski, Diop, and Rice, deserve a huge amount of criticism.
Tom?
I thought Zabaleta was his usual self. I don't think you can ever criticise him. I thought he was thought he actually had a good game. He was getting forward, getting involved. He probably looked like one of our most dangerous players at times, actually, when he did get forward. Front four, we've already said the front four were terrible as far as I'm concerned. Rice had one of his quieter games, but I've never criticised him before. That's not so much a criticism of him. He was just quieter today. I thought Noble was the better of the two. I don't think Noble played too badly at all. He made that great challenge in the box where could have easily given away a penalty, but he got it absolutely spot on. That was fantastic. I thought Diop did have a good game. Up until he sort of made the mistake for the goal, he was probably my West Ham player of the match, if you like. But I can't really forget that because, like you say, it's a bit of inexperience he showed there, despite the fact he did get back and win it. Creswell was Creswell. I don't think he was neither good nor bad today. I thought he was quite average. Too many average performances. You can tell already by what I'm saying. Bonner, poor again. Sorry, poor again. And that was a penalty. Should have gave away a penalty in that game. He is so clumsy and he's so one-footed. It's unbelievable. He gets himself into too much bother because he won't use his right foot to tackle or pass, and he won't use his right foot for anything. And that's why he gets himself into so many sticky situations. And yeah, Fabianski, terrific, because he made that worldy save we were talking about, the one from Zabaleta, but then that one from Wilson, where I do think he got a touch on that to tip it onto the post. That was fantastic. So you can never criticise Fabianski. Brilliant.
I thought the back four did okay. I think Ogbonna's just... I think it was a pen as well. I think Bournemouth should have had a pen for that. It was just typical Ogbonna. He is just clumsy though. And the thing is, referees are catching on to him because when I was at the Arsenal game in the first half, I was beside our box. I was beside Arsenal's box. So the goal West Ham was attacking. And we had our first corner. It was our first corner of the game. It was the first corner of the game because Arsenal didn't have him for a while. And as the players away take the corner, as Anderson or Creswell was taking a ball away to get the corner, John Moss was ref. He literally walked up to Ogbonna and pointed at him and said, "You, none of this, none of that." And there was even a corner. So he already knew before the game started that Ogbonna does that. And I'm just thinking, people are onto you. In the first 10, 15 minutes, they battered our left-hand side. They were throwing everything. Now, part of me thought it was Creswell, but maybe it's Ogbonna. I don't know. They were going for those two for some reason. And I thought Creswell held his own down there. I thought Noble and Rice had quiet games, but only because Bournemouth played wide. Bournemouth always get the ball down and then play it wide. So they just sort of get taken out the game, if you like, by the opposition. There's not much opportunity to win the ball back unless they drift wide a little bit. And you often saw Rice and Noble having to go out to the touchline and try and tackle someone, usually because the fullback was coming forward and Anderson and Antonio hadn't quite got back in time and stuff. But our front four is where it fell down today for me. I think everybody, the back 6, 7, including Fabianski, all did okay. They all passed marks, if you like. But I thought the front four all sort of got less than pass marks. Antonio was his usual self. Okay, he tried hard, he worked hard, he put himself about. But like Tom said, there's only so many of those types of players you can have in the team. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. It's like a domino effect, really. We put one in, everything starts to wobble. You put two in, they're all really wobbling. But Carroll up front, Carroll got away with it under Bilic, under Moyes, under Allardyce because he used to blend into the football we'd played. It suited Carroll, but now he doesn't. He sticks out like a sore thumb. He really, really does. Everybody, nice flowing football and goes to Carroll, and the play just slows down completely. Everything just comes to a grinding halt whenever the ball goes near him. I don't agree with Charlie. I don't think he played any better in the second half. I don't think he's to blame for the result, but he also, at the same time, he was the one that got our glorious chance at 0-0 and put it over. So he's got to take those chances. You are a striker. That's your bread and butter chances. I'm sorry, but that you have to be putting that in the back of the net with your eyes closed. Hernandez would have scored that. I've got zero doubt about that whatsoever. He's scored goals similar to that for West Ham United. But apart from that, I thought Nasri was very, very poor. I thought Anderson was very, very quiet. I don't want to say they got bullied, but I just think Bournemouth style play is not good for Pellegrini's football at West Ham, if you like. They were better than us today. They were the better team. They deserved the 3 points, in my opinion. They were faster. They were fitter. They wanted it more. They were able to string passes together. They were a lot more creative. Even at 1-0, what does Howe do? He puts on Stanislas, takes off Wilson. He says to David Brooks, right, you go in the middle now. What happens? Brooks is bang away in the box, cuts it in, bang, 2-0. The guy that Howe moved has set the goal up. our one. Now, someone said this to me again on Twitter, and it's the same person that said to last game, there's no plan B with Pellegrini. He just chucks players on a little bit. There was no change in strategy. There's no change in system. We didn't change the style of play. Even with all 3 different players on the pitch, we still continued what we were doing for the first 66 minutes before our first subs. So for the first 66 minutes, we continued it for the other half hour, just with different players on the pitch. Now, I don't want to criticise Pellegrini because he's a fantastic manager, trusting him, blah, 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 blah. But as I keep saying, his subs really are Marmite for me. In some Arsenal last week, I loved them. I thought they were fantastic. They closed the game out. But today, I hate them a little bit because it just didn't change the game. It didn't affect the game. Howe subs affected the game. They got a goal out of Eddie Howe's subs. Our subs, nothing come of it. So as bad as Andy Carroll was, the players that came on in place of him contribute the same as Andy Carroll. Zilch. And that's how much points we got. Charlie, what's your final thoughts on the game, please? And may I get your hammer of the match if there is one?
That'll be Fabianski for me. He made some saves that he just had no right to make, and it seems difficult to say that when we lost 2-0. But the truth is that we would have lost a lot more if it wasn't for him. There were a couple of those saves were truly outstanding and show such a good deal we got for him. Like, it makes no sense. He should be at a top 6 team quite easily. He's an incredible player. And then final thoughts. I'm just fed up and sick and tired of looking at us fail to break down sides who sit a little bit deep. We just can't do it, and we should be able to do it under Pellegrini. But that's the problem when you're playing a style of football which suits top 4 players, and yet we've not got top 4 players in our team because we consistently come up against teams like this and we just struggle to break them down. And one shot on target in a Premier League game is just ridiculous. How can you only have one shot on target out of everyone in the team? We had only 9 shots, which isn't that much to begin with. But only one of them being on target is utterly ridiculous, and that was a speculative effort from Hernandez that was never going in. And so we just need to figure it out. Like you say, there needs to be some sort of plan B. And I think that's partially why the substitutions took so long today, because Pellegrini knew, we're not going to change style. So what's the point in changing? We might as well just keep the players we've got and keep pushing, because that was the best 11 players we had fit, arguably, apart from Carroll. And so it's just ridiculous. We need to come up with something, because there are more teams who will play like Bournemouth and beat us because we are incapable of breaking teams down.
Tom, your final thoughts and your hammer of the match, please.
Yeah, hammer of the match, mate, Zabaleta, because I thought he showed more composure as well as endeavour than what any other player did in a West Ham shirt today, as he tends to most games. So, yeah, final thoughts. I hope that's just a blip, just a one-off. We obviously need to get the striking situation sorted out. But what I will say is we've still got a lot to be sort of happy about, thankful for. We're still in a very good position. It's not like we've just lost this and we're in a relegation battle. So, yeah, this is still a work in progress. It's still going to take time. I do believe we're still moving in the right direction. We're just perhaps going to have we're going to have to just put up with this. We're going to be a bit of an inconsistent team. We're still quite new into the Pellegrini reign. He's come in, he's obviously completely changed the way we play. A lot of new personnel who have had to settle in. So as downhearted as I've sounded on this video for the majority of it, I do still think we're moving in that right direction. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if we go to Wolves and get a win.
Yeah, I mean, if you said to me at the start of the season, before the ball was kicked, you're going to get beat away to Bournemouth this season, I would have really minded, to be honest. I would have been like, oh, really? You know, I would have thought, yeah, that's fine. They're a good footballing side. There's no shame in getting beat by it. It's just a pity that they were on really poor form and we couldn't capitalise on that. And there was a bit of a spotlight on West Ham today, I felt, because of the Arnautovic thing. A lot of people thinking, probably looking, going, well, can you do it without Arnautovic? Well, the answer the players have given them is, well, no, we can't. But I've seen us play just as bad as that, if not worse, in all honesty, with Marko Arnautovic in the team. So he doesn't make or break everything, but it does just emphasise how much Pellegrini needs to be back for the next 2 weeks in regards to getting a striker in, because it's clear Carroll doesn't fit how he wants to play it. Hernandez can't play how he wants to play, because if he wants to play this 4-2-3-1, which is how he's lined up the last 2 games now, Hernandez can't play that lone striker role. We've known that. We've learned the hard way. I think Pellegrini knows that, possibly why he didn't start today, regardless of if he was fit enough or not. And then that leaves Perez, who's just not doing it, wasn't even on the bench today. So that says a lot about how Pellegrini sees Perez as a future at West Ham. That leaves us with no striker unless Marko Arnautovic does a dramatic U-turn. The board now need to go back Pellegrini and go get a striker, get Arnautovic out the door if they can, and go get the player he wants. And if you believe the reports, we all know it's Maxi Gomez. So, you know, you did it for Sullivan, did it, and you went and got Felipe Anderson. He probably paid a lot more than you wanted to, but you went and got him. He's going to have to go do the same for whoever Pellegrini's number one striker is to come in, because we showed today that we need that striker. The fact it took him until the 66th minute to make a change says a lot to me, and that is that I don't have any better options at the minute. I might as well just, like Charlie said, I might as well just keep that on the pitch, because I don't trust the players sitting behind me to go on and change the game. Because if he did, he would have done the sub sooner. He would have done one at half-time. We've seen Pellegrini do subs at half-time before, but he didn't today, and there's a reason for that. But as you said, it's part of the long-term thing. Listen, I'll not forget about the loss, but I'll get over it eventually. The one positive you could maybe take from this is we've got the FA Cup coming up next week now. This defeat might just remind us we are a mid-table side this season. There's no shame in that, okay? There's nothing to be bad about. We're not in a relegation battle. We've probably got a little bit of work to do until we can challenge for 7th in the league, for example. So the FA Cup should be the focus. And I think today's defeat might just emphasise the fact that the FA Cup should be our priority between now and May. And hopefully it does. And we'll find out against Wimbledon as to how strong a side Pellegrini names. Anyway, Fabianski gets my hammer match. Well, thought he was fantastic. Didn't really do anything wrong. Couldn't do anything with either goal. He was just beaten. But that's been Charlie, that's been Tom, I've been Gerald, we've been Hamish Chat. Leave your comments below with what your thoughts on the performance was and why we got beat. Obviously, it'll all be a bit Andy Carroll-y, but if you can, try and keep away from the Andy Carroll argument, just to give us a little bit of interest in reading below, that would be appreciated. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new around here. We'll have a video going up very, very soon. Depends when Charlie finishes it. On strikers that could replace Marko Natovic at West Ham United. Myself and Gonzo will be doing a cup of tea, and of course, we'll be doing our videos on the latest transfer rumours. Catch you in a bit.